Hello, my name is Gary Mansfield, and this is a bonus episode of the Ministry of Arts podcast. Now, as ever, let's begin by banging these bongos.
Yeah, right. Crazy.
Hello, and welcome to the Ministry of Arts bonus episode number 32. Today, we're going to be talking to Emma Edmondson, who is the founder of something really quite special, and that is the Other MA, otherwise known as TOMA. Now, the Other MA is pretty much what it says. It's a postgraduate course, although unaffiliated, and to be honest, over the last few years, I don't think it'd be too far to say with students on BAs or MAs being pretty much had over financially and with that learning experience. Well, TOMA offers you peace of mind in both of them aspects. So come and join me as I spoke to Emma Edmondson to find out a whole lot more about TOMA.
It doesn't function as a gallery space anymore because it is kind of off the beaten track. Like, it's in Westcliff and Southend, but it's like 15 minutes walk from each train station. So it's studio space, TOMA meets here, and it's like some of the artists in the space here can have like work in progress shows and things like that, but it's more like a space for meeting and developing practice rather than showing it off.
Well, if we just speak about you for a sec.
Yeah.
Emma Edmondson.
Mm-hmm.
What was your little journey into the art world, if you like? Did you grow up with creativity in the home?
So I didn't grow up with creativity in the home per se, but I was always drawing, really loved art from a really young age, and yeah, I speak about this a lot, actually. I suppose like the pivotal moment in my life was when my mum took me to life drawing classes at the age of 11. So I used to go in my school uniform to the local university, because I'm from Kent. So it was Kent University. They had CAIAD there, like art school. Yeah. And I used to go there on like a Wednesday, Thursday evening. We'd have a McDonald's in the car, and then I'd go up and get my easel out alongside all these other, grown-ups, basically. And
when you say life drawing, was it a life model?
Yeah, they were.
How did you with that at 11? Because that's quite a thing to encounter for an 11-year-old.
Well, to begin with, I left out certain elements. There were blank spaces, or I might focus on the shoulder or the legs. But, after a while, I was like, this is, it's here for drawing. It's not a sexual object, But yeah, I mean, my God, it was,
it's all right saying it's not a sexual object, but if you've not encountered it before, then that is wholly what it is.
Yeah, I mean... So that was a great experience for me as well, just I suppose getting the confidence to be able to draw those certain elements and feeling comfortable with it. And I think what was so amazing about that experience was obviously the tutor, amazing guy called Patrick Crouch. I think he's still around. He's like an iconic stone carver dude. We do the crit halfway through, but obviously I was 11 years old. I didn't know what a crit was.
I was all talking about.
And they were like, turn your work around. I was like, oh my God. And you'd have to turn your work around, and everyone would chat about it. And he'd just say really nice things about my work and just really encourage me. And then after the crit halfway through, he'd take us to another room where he had like old school slide projector, and he'd be drinking his red wine. Excellent. And like talking about Matisse, all the thin white male canon per se. However, 11 years old, and he's talking about these like Matisse drawings, and he was like, you've got a bit of Matisse style in you. And I was like, what? It was wild. So that really built my confidence, and also I think made me realize the social aspect of art as well, which is really important to me, the kind of talking about art and realizing that like these were my people, because I didn't have many friends growing up. I was a little weirdo. That's all right. It's not all right when
Well,
you're
not many 11-year-olds walk around with an easel under their arm, do they?
So I was a bit strange, but yeah, obviously as you get older you embrace that and you realize that's a really
just
cool
get
thing.
stranger.
Yeah. But at 11 no one wants to be strange, do they? I mean, absolutely. For me, because I was quite strange at school, all the other little weirdos kind of congregated in the art room. So I wouldn't go do the sport stuff. I'd go sit in the art room. And yeah, the teachers there were just amazing as well. And I think also that's where I realized like the importance of critical debate as well. Because I'd get into quite a few fiery arguments with them about stuff, but then it'd be fine, it'd be and I really enjoyed that as well. And you're so right, so I'm practicing artist, I make work most of the week, but teach in traditional sphere. So I teach in an adult college 1 day a week, and then also teach on other university courses and things like that, and run TOMA. So for me, like, the importance of education in connecting someone to art and making them realize that it's like not an elite thing, it's not for just certain types of people, it is about a different way of thinking and accessing the world.
Well, that's exactly why one of the reasons why I started this podcast. Although I'm not quite a Cockney, being from Essex, a bit of a Mockney, but there isn't many voices like this one with a background from a council estate or even a prison in the art world. So it changed my life, and we turned it around 180 degrees.
Wow.
From being a long-term, lifelong criminal to not wanting to be part of that world anymore and part of this one.
Yeah.
And it was, I figured it was a voice that people needed to hear, for anyone who was intimidated by going up the steps to the Tate, for instance, and like you just said, art's for everyone, but not everyone feels that way.
Yeah, and I worked at the Tate for 6 years as a gallery assistant, so like right down the bottom of the fucking food chain. And I was a contractor as well. I wasn't even permanent staff. And those were the most special moments, was like when someone would bumble into the room, they'd be like, "Oh, what's this? What the fuck's
the bullocks?"
I'd be like, right, shall I tell you a little bit more about it? And you'd tell them a little bit more about it. And sometimes they'd go away and they'd come and bring back someone else while you were still sitting there and explain it to their friend. And I was like, yes, like, this is amazing.
Yeah, just knowing that someone unexpectedly is taking something away from an area or a subject that they didn't necessarily have much interest in. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I love those moments. Yeah, they were really special.
So you mentioned TOMA there, Emma.
Yes.
Tell us about TOMA. What is TOMA? What does it stand for?
What is TOMA? So TOMA is the other MA. And I set it up in 2016 as an artist-run project. So I was very pissed off at the education system. I'd gone to an amazing art school. Well, I'd gone to art school in London in 2002, but I quit after 6 months, just because there were 600 people on the course. Your studio had to be in a suitcase. Like, it was not a great situation. It was Central St. Martin's Foundation. It just wasn't for me at that time. I remember going in to have a tutorial, and the poor tutor, just had a pile of sheets of paper, and they were like, "Who are you? Oh, okay, this is what you've done. You're doing all right. Cool." And that was kind of the only connection. It felt very surface level. And I suppose, I went on to do some other things. So I was promoting after party club nights. I was really into hard house. I did a lot of raving in Kent when I was growing up. and ended up working for a hard house promoter called Frantic. So he used to do events at Camden Palace, the Fridge, stuff like that. So I was 18 and having a lot of fun promoting these after Sunday morning parties. However, that lifestyle was not sustainable for many reasons I won't go into. And I ended up doing a little bit of music PR for a little bit of a while. And then I ended up writing, actually. And text is a big part of my practice. And so I was a journalist, a music journalist at the NME and the Daily Star for my sins on the music pages there. And I did that for a few years, but then I got a job at The Sun on the gossip column for 2 weeks. I was there for 2 weeks and I just had an epiphany, and I was like, because they made me one day, they were like, right, Guy Ritchie's having this party, you need to go out with a camera and like try and get into this party. And so that, it was basically stalking, right? And I was early 20s and I was thinking, what am I doing with my life? Like, I love writing, I really enjoy the practice of writing as a creative endeavor, but I'd ended up in this space where it wasn't that before. Obviously the Sun's politics, we could talk about that for an hour. And I just had this epiphany and quit and moved into this like bedsit room above this pub in Bethnal Green, because I was living in London at the time, and just got a portfolio together, and ended up doing an FDA course at Byam-Shaw, which was probably the last proper art school before it got eaten up by Central St Martin's. So that's what really politicized me there. They were shutting Byam-Shaw down. They were giving everyone their P45s. They were shutting down the library. And this was at the point, the 2010 Brown report, when there was a lot of discussion around raising fees and things like that. And so I was the course rep for my course, and I'd go into these meetings and I'd be like, where's this extra $6,000 going? Tell me, why do we have to pay more? What's going on here? So that really politicized me, as well as the student protests. And I think, TOMA is born out of politics and austerity, centrally. It's a direct response to the student fee rises, the austerity, and I suppose the slow dismantling of creative education by the government since then, really.
I mean, they were putting adverts out about people not going into the arts, or at least retraining, wasn't they?
Yeah, and also this idea that the only way to value education is how much you earn once you leave. There's no, we were talking about well-being and social and all of these other elements that come with having an art practice and having a creative community, and none of that is measured in these systems.
Brilliant.
So then I got in to do an MA at Goldsmiths, and they cancelled the course a month before it was meant to start with a 2-line email. So that pissed me off.
They just stopped why did they stop the course?
So the Goldsmiths had all these amazing niche art MAs, like art writing, like art studio practice. Yeah, my one was socially engaged practice. And they just stopped them all, I think, to save money, consolidate it all into the art program. Yeah. And so at this point, I was like, God, I got a new job to fit around this new MA, all the rest of it. And I'd started to see all MFA and School of the Damned who'd just set up. And I was like, oh, wow, is there one of these in Essex? And there was nothing in Essex. So I was doing some work with Metal at the time in Southend, and they're an amazing organisation. And I went to them and I was like, I've got this idea. I want to set up an alternative art school, or do you want to set one up? And no, but write a proposal. So I put together this meaty proposal, and they were like, cool, let's try and find some funding. And in passing, they were speaking to this philanthropist dude who actually still funds TOMA. And he gave me £5,000 to set up the school. And off I went.
Wow.
Like it was.
And what year was that, Emma?
So that was 2015, and then we launched in 2016. Yeah.
And what was the first program like? Obviously, I presume it's very different from what it is today.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. So I see us as like slippery and eel-like, and we're always kind of responding to participants' needs or suggestions and things like that. I think rather than being this kind of big monolith that the university is, we're wriggly and small and nimble. So the structure of the program hasn't actually really changed that much. It's very much like a traditional MA or art course. You know, we have visiting artists, workshops, crits, tutorials, critical theory, residencies, exhibitions. And yeah, in that respect, that kind of hasn't changed. But I hand it over to the participants to decide who they want to bring in, what they want to learn that year. So that kind of keeps the program really fresh. I was going to say vibrant, but I hate that word.
No, but if it fits, it fits, doesn't it?
So first group were fantastic. And actually, you know, we have a new core group that starts each year, but we also have the TOMA associates. So they're people that never want to leave. Because what happened after the first year, people were like, we're not finished, and I was like, okay, we'll set up 2 parallel courses at the same time and have new people and the people that want to stay on. And then they were like, some of us still don't want to leave, and that new year were like, also we want to stay on. So I was like, okay, we need to set something else up here. So we've had people on the program since 2016. Yeah, which is great. You know, it's like building a little family, a little network. Yeah.
Oh, you should do an unaccredited PhD then, shouldn't you? To go on afterwards.
I mean, yeah, people have been on it for, what is that, 7 years, 6 years?
Wow.
I don't know my maths.
Oh, so that is pretty much a PhD, isn't it?
I mean, mate, because at the end of the year, instead of getting a certificate, everyone gets a ceramic sausage on a fork. So maybe there's like, what do you get if you've done 7 years? We need to think of the next level award.
Excellent. That is superb. The cost for someone to join TOMA, what would that be?
We have 2 free spaces a year. So we have one funded by Sarah Lucas. She's been funding it, who is a fucking legend. She's been funding it for the past few years, actually, and also gave us some money to do some mini commissions when we were in our shopping centre space. So we have a sliding scale of payment, which is on our website. So that's something new we've put in this year, because we really want to make sure that TOMA as an organization can survive in this landscape. So we make the budget completely transparent to all participants, say like, this is how much we're paying everyone. This is how much my time costs to organize it as well. So we have our sliding scale fee, which starts at £80 a month. And people decide what they can pay. You know, we're not going to like means test you or anything gross like that. It's just literally like, this is what it costs. What can you pay? If you can pay more, please pay more. If you can pay the baseline, that's also fine. But something really important I try and do is I'm constantly applying for funding for special projects. So each year I try and give back a bit of money to the participants through commissions, through paid work. And we've just got a new Arts Council grant that will see each of the new TOMA cohort get a mini commission. So they'll be getting, you know, 300 and odd quid, I think, towards that, which is good. It's not free. I wish it was free, because I do believe in free education, but we're trying to build something that's going to survive and is sustainable and doesn't have to be reliant on funding to run as an education program, because it is so hyper competitive out there now for funding.
I agree. if you don't mind me saying, and this is only a personal opinion, when things are free, sometimes some people don't put in the dedication that they would have done or may have done if they were paying for that service.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that happen when we do free events and everyone signs up to loads of tickets, and then you get maybe 5 people attend. So I think there is a way. Yeah, I think it is important, but it's, for us, it's not just about finance. It's kind of becoming part of a system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That works together, that understands how the organization works. And also I think it's really important for people to realize how much things cost to run, especially if they're going to go out and be artists in the world. If they want to go and set up an organization, like, you know, there's things like insurance, like paying for a monthly Zoom, you know, all of those things kind of tot up over 18 months, which is what the program is now.
Yeah. Well, when I put on my first exhibition, as I mentioned earlier, it was like 30 artists. And I was like, well, I'll only need like a couple of £100 to cover me. But my God, the amount of hours I put in, it was probably like 20 pence an hour.
Yeah.
And then if I was to cover my costs for the amount of, even on minimum wage, I would have to sort of bung another couple of grand in, you know. And as you say, without them expenses of a bus journey here, a train ticket there, over the course of like putting this show together for 3 months, it just stacked up and it just wasn't viable after that.
Yeah, it isn't viable. And for us, you know, and for me personally, I'm always campaigning to get artists paid. Like that is a big part of my work. With TOMA, we have a shared rate card. So everyone's paid the same hourly rate, no matter what they do. We pay for visiting artist travel, any accommodation as well. We always put on a shared lunch. You know, it's all of those kind of things that are really, really important.
Yeah.
I think.
And that's what people take away, is that sense of community and togetherness, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like we just like hanging out. Like that's kind of how, and I think for me, you know, going back to what we were talking about earlier and kind of like that elitism and that formalism and it coming from that kind of patriarchal structure, education, I would say, traditional, you know, for us, it's like about hanging out. Everyone brings a potluck lunch. Like we might go out afterwards as well and sing some karaoke, you know, that is the vibe. The hanging out is just as important. This deep hanging out is just as important as the education and the learning that happens. Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
That's what's been amazing about TOMA as well, is we've had, you know, some really high profile artists come down because I suppose they're curious about these alternatives. You know, there's a lot of alternative schools now popping up, which I think is fantastic, because I think there needs to be, like in the 60s, you know, there were art schools in every town and city, and look at kind of the cultural landscape in England that came out of that, out of the fact that there were art schools, you know, not just artists, but like musicians, loads of creative people went to art school. So I think there need to be more art schools. You know, in Essex, TOMA's like the only MA-ish provision. There's literally not another art MA in the whole of it, and Essex is like, it's pretty big. And so, you know, we have artists traveling from London as well to come to TOMA, and yeah, I just think more art schools. Everyone needs to be setting up alternative art schools.
I'll make you right 100%. How long is the course?
So it's 18 months. And again, you know, going back to kind of that slipperiness and responsiveness, we made it 18 months because during the pandemic, we were a 12-month course, but we ended up extending it for 2 years. So when the pandemic hit, I think we'd been going for probably about 5 months. And I made a decision to pause all the activity that we were going to do in real life and created a made for online program.
Okay.
So we had the amazing artist Morgan Quaintance, who you should definitely speak to. He's super cool. and he took us through some online sessions. So for us, it was really about making sure that those artists on the program were held as best they could be, and also making sure that they got what they paid for, and what they were promised after we were allowed to kind of leave our homes again. So made sure that all that activity happened. And that really pissed me off, these big universities not putting on physical shows.
It was gross, wasn't it?
We bloody put on their physical show. Like we did it because it's important to have that. And we didn't have much money. We were almost very fucked for a long time, but managed to get some grants and stuff in place to survive. And I was just thinking, how can these universities just not pause things and then have the in-person show? Oh, I don't know.
You said about the meeting up online during COVID and lockdowns. That apart, how often do the guys meet up on the course?
So we probably meet up about 3 times a month, sometimes more. We always have an online check-in on the first Thursday of the month as well. So we'll usually meet at weekends or evenings just to kind of fit in around people's caring responsibilities, or a lot of the artists work full time as well. So yeah, just 3 times a month, 3 to 4 times a month, really. And
what does that entail? When everyone does meet up?
So what does that entail? So yeah, we will meet, we'll have like maybe a visiting artist, and that'll be from 12 till 5. We might have a workshop as well, again, 12 till 5. So people at the start of the course give me a list of dream artists they want to come and visit, and then I reach out to them, much like you were doing, and just see where I could get, and have workshops. And then we have crits as well, which are full-day crits, tutorials. Just, it's like I said, it's kind of like a traditional MA, really. Brilliant. In that sense.
And is there an end of year show?
Always an end of year show. We've got our interim show on at the moment as well. So we have a couple of kind of works in progress, interim shows during the time too. And this year we've got a fully funded residency in France.
Nice. Very nice. So
pay for everyone's travel and accommodation and stuff like that from our generous funder that funded us at the beginning of TOMA.
Is there a required thesis as well?
Oh, actually, yeah. Well, no, not a required one, but we have critical theory sessions. So they take place on an evening, and it's kind of like a pit stop through history of art, from the Impressionists to now, and then also thinking about critical theory and philosophy in relation to people's practice. So there is an option to write a longer form artist statement or an essay, and Jeremy Spencer then can mark that if people desire. Yeah. Brilliant. But it's not essential.
Yeah, superb. You mentioned there's some timings. I did see on your site the times that you meet up, and it's the most convenient for people's lifestyles thing as well. That put a smile on my face.
Yeah, just kind of thinking, because like I said, a lot of our artists work full time. So we try to, and I also try and get like all the dates secured well in advance, because people have busy lives and family commitments and stuff like that, and they might need to shape, they need to shape their lives around this program. So always kind of trying to make sure that nothing changes once those dates are in place. But obviously sometimes they do have to, if we get a big name artist who's like, I can only come on this day. But yeah, just being conscious of that, really, and making sure that people can still work and commit to their social lives and family lives.
And when is enrollment? What part of the year?
Well, I don't know, whenever we do it, really. So the current course finishes in March 2024. So we'll probably do a call out before then to make sure that maybe they'll probably start in spring or summer 2024. But yeah, we're not beholden to kind of the traditional educational churn of September to July.
And how many do you have on the course?
So we've got it's 12 for the current cohort, and then we've got 21 artists as associates. So
Brilliant.
those ones that never leave.
And do they pay as well, the associates?
Yes. So they pay sliding scale, and they can access the artist talks, crits, some workshops as well, and tutorials and exhibitions. So yeah.
Brilliant. That feels like a thing that most universities or courses should do, because that bit at the end of your course, when they just open the door and push you out, you just walk around like, well, what do I do now? Yeah,
it's funny, isn't it, that it's like, oh, it's this is how long it takes to become an artist, and it's like for some people, like, they might need a bit more support, or lifelong learning, right? I think that's the main thing, is that learning carries on throughout your whole life. So we've got artists who are in their 20s and in their 60s, so it shouldn't be defined by age or anything like that.
Emma, I think that's all my questions asked, for sure.
Cool. Yeah,
for sure. A little one for you. When I do a podcast with each artist, I ask them a question, and one of them that sort of gives the listener a little understanding about them and their practice possibly is this question: if there was you and 5 other artists, past and present, what would your ideal group show be? That's what most people say.
Obviously Sarah Lucas. I mean, Bruce McLean as well, because he is an utter ledge and has really supported TOMA, and I really like his playful performance. Rosalie Schweiker, I'm a big fan of as well, and her stickers and kind of campaigning activist work. My forever collaborator, the wonderful Lou Williams, who I work with creatively on a lot of projects, including Dog Ear, where we make art for dogs.
Brilliant.
Who else have I got left? I'm just thinking, and Matisse, come on, let's bring him back. I love, his simple charcoal drawings. I'd have some of them up, just in a kind of nod to my 11-year-old self and my brain exploding when I saw him.
He was the first artist that I took an interest in. Absolutely fascinated me from the moment I saw him.
Brilliant.
Right, Emma, thank you very much for your time.
Take care.
I'll speak to you again soon and look forward to meeting you in person.
Yes. See you soon. Bye.
See you later. If you've got an exhibition or any other creative project within the arts, or even just want to promote your own artwork, you could do that in podcast form, similar to the one you've just listened to. They start at a convenient price point that is comfortable for any artist working on a budget. This podcast itself is created by working artists, and we know how important that is. So to find out more information, you can email us on ministryofartsorg@gmail.com or on Instagram @ministryofartsorg. Ta-da!